are live. I am stepping in and taking the role of Jeff Sample today. This is Dorkcast episode 72. The Dorks Go Heavy Metal with Angie Simon from the Heavy Metal Summer Experience. I will. I'll give the shout out to Jeff. Jeff could not be here. He's traveling this week. So Angie, he sends his best wishes on the podcast, and he would love to get you on the crew. So we'll have to make that happen afterwards.
Okay.
I will go ahead and kick things off. Jonathan, what you drinking tonight? What's going on with you?
Well, it is the first snow, so I'm going peated. So this is our local peated bourbon mix. So Altered States is local to Erie. This is their peated one, and it actually is good, but it's not Scotch. Like you think Scotch in peating, it's very much like a peated bourbon. So weird, but very good. I needed something. Like I looked out at the white this morning and got real depressed, and I'm like, I need a drink. So, how about you, Travis? What are you drinking this morning? Or this evening, sorry. I should have been drinking.
I have been drinking since this morning. No, I am still working on my Smoke Wagon malted rye, the Vegas rye that I picked up. I just mixed it into a highball, so a little bit of lime juice and a little bit of club soda. It is one of my conference mainstays because I have to stay hydrated while I'm working that shore floor. So yeah, working on that and it's always tasty. What about you, Trent? I think that you're out of your 75.
That's right. So I've got a glass with some bourbon in here. I don't have the bottle to showcase what it is, and I'll have to check some of the documentation from one of the online bourbon groups that I'm in. This is one of the bourbon shipments from the group from earlier in the summer when I was on my 75 hard dry period. So I had these left, and I thought, hey, these things need to get drank yet. So what better way to go after them than on a heavy metal podcast? So I don't know the name of it, but I'm sure it's a very slightly or probably a pretty expensive, nice bourbon that I'm going after right now. So.
Well, I'm sure that insert random bourbon name here is very tasty tonight. So.
Right. And the individual that mailed it, if you're watching this, you'll find out now that I did not drink your bourbon when you mailed it, and I'm drinking it now. So cat's out of the bag.
Oh well.
Right on.
And well, now we'll welcome in Angie. Angie, thank you for taking the time. I know that you were traveling today. I think you have settled into your hotel room there in sunny San Diego.
Yes.
What you got for us tonight?
Well, I wish I was drinking a bourbon right now. That you guys you're after my own heart. I like a good Manhattan. I'm into that. But I have water. But we will be having drinks here in the next 2 hours. So I've got happy hour coming up at 5. So I'll catch up with you. I'm a little ahead of you guys. So or behind you guys, I should say. So
yeah, we're
you got a pace, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So yes, I just arrived in San Diego for actually I'm here for a women's summit. SMACNA has a women's summit. We've got I don't know, maybe 40, 50 women coming, and a great speaker tomorrow. So that'll be fun to see and to share some ideas and stories and things like that. So I think it'll be great. But,
that's fantastic. And we chatted a little bit out at the SMACNA convention, and they just they installed a new president this year, Carol Duncan. Is it fairly common for a woman in SMACNA? Is this? I mean, it seems like obviously recent history anyway shows that.
Well, we're excited that Carol just went in. She's actually here. She and her daughter are both going to be here for the summit. She is, and we say we're not going to say this, but she is the second woman president ever for SMACNA, and I was our first in 2019. Okay. So in 75 years, SMACNA hadn't had a woman until I went in. So it is, but now, our board has 3 or 4 women on it, and we're really, we hope to get another one on the executive committee here in the next year or two. So it's becoming more common, and that's a great thing. So
well, fantastic, and you did such a great job. They made you do it a second year.
yeah. That and COVID.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. I got to be the first woman president, and the first 2-year president ever. So that was great. So
we'll celebrate. We'll celebrate both. So we did title this the Dorks Go Heavy Metal. So I think it's probably a great time for you to go ahead and we'll just kick it right off there. For anybody that lives under a rock, can you Give us first start with your background and then kind of what led you to where you are now.
Okay. I'm a mechanical engineer at a Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo in California. And 1 year out of college, I started at Western Allied Mechanical as a young project manager. And we were a mechanical contractor at the time doing, maybe that year we were doing 20 million and we were doing a lot of design build. And I just grew up in the company. As of this past January, I'd been 36 years and I'm officially retired from the company. In about 2008, I became our president, which was a great time to start as 2008 to become president, because in 2008, 9 hit, and then you learned a lot about having to run a company. We did about 40 million when I became president, and when I retired, we were doing about 125 million. So we grew really nicely, full mechanical. We actually do controls, plumbing, piping, sheet metal, and balance and service. We have a big service division. And great, loved working in the construction industry. I mean, for me, the choices when I was in college, I wanted to do HVAC solar, which was an option within Cal Poly. And I did that because I thought solar sounded pretty cool because of energy. But I also knew when I graduated, I didn't want to go work for a consultant. I wanted to go out in the field. I played softball at Cal Poly, so I've always been very sports minded. And I just said, hey, I don't want to be behind a desk the entire time. So I thought construction sounded great. My dad was not in construction. And that's the part everybody asked me, was your dad in construction? My dad actually worked at Point Magoo, which is a naval weapons station. He's an electrical engineer. But, when your dad works at a naval weapons station, you don't bring your daughter to work. So I didn't really know what my dad did. So I think he did something with missiles. So, but I ended up doing that. And I loved construction. And so I also worked my way through at Western Allied. We had some people handled MCA, which is the mechanical side, and some people handled the SMACNA side, the sheet metal side. And we wanted to have a relationship with SMACNA and MCA because that's who negotiates for our unions with our union partners. And I was involved locally with the SMACNA side and was our local SMACNA president back in 2008. And they also asked if I would join the national board for SMACNA. And I said, sure. And found out that they had never had a woman on the board, which I was a little surprised about. Good experience for me too, because I grew up in California, and in California, everybody's full mechanical. And we do things, we're more cutting edge on things. And we're a lot of design build, a lot of teamwork stuff. And I learned really quickly that wasn't the way it is across the country. I mean, that there's a lot of sheet metal only, and a lot of companies that do plan spec only or bid build. So I learned a lot about what other parts of the country do. And then eventually got off the board, and they kept trying to convince me to go through the chairs. But after I had to kind of get I have two boys, or actually I should say two men, I'm 28 and 25 now, but the younger one was just going through high school. And eventually I did cave in, and with a lot of wine from my girlfriends, I agreed to go ahead and go through the chairs. And so ended up being national president. And it was the course of the pandemic. We were in the pandemic, and my partner at work, who's now our president, and I were talking about one of his kids, and he has 4 boys. And this one boy was just one who's probably not going to go to college. Schools is tough for him, but he loves working with his hands. And he had taken an art class and did a lot of welding. And so luckily Zach was able, because we had welding in our shop, we had a shop foreman that said he'd love to teach him welding after work. So when the summer of the pandemic I think it was 20, he took welding from our guy, Mike. And Mike was saying he's a great welder. He was 14 years old. And that's when we started talking, we really should share this vision, because we were right by East Palo Alto, which is a fairly underserved area. And I said, we should run a summer camp. And Zach was like, hey, that sounds great, but I don't have the time. And I said, well, I'll make time. So I put a business plan together and presented to my partners and said, I think we should run a summer camp. And I explained to them, it's going to cost us some money, but this is why I thought we should do it. And I said, let the kids know about it. We could get more people in our trades that way. We could teach high schoolers about what a great career it is. So my partner said, yes, let's do it. So I was starting to make plans when we had our virtual SMACNA convention. And there was a virtual roundtable on workforce development. And I shared the idea that we were going to run the summer camp. And my peer group partner, Hermanson up in Seattle, Rick Hermanson, called me as soon as we were off. He called me up and said, we want to do that with you. And I said, awesome. So the two companies worked together, which was pretty powerful. We came up with the name Heavy Metal Summer Experience because we thought it was a fun name. And we came up with, what kind of projects we were going to do in our shops and with piping and sheet metal. We came up with liability forms like permission slips and how we, and what we're going to do. When we had determined, we had talked to Milwaukee Tool at the time, and they said they'd love to give us tool bags for the kids. So they gave us, I think we had 28 total kids. I think they gave us 30 or 35 tool bags for the kids. We also worked on getting Red Wing boots for the kids, and we gave them PPE as well. And that's kind of it. We just kind of formed a summer camp. So they did it up in Seattle, and we did it in Menlo Park, California, in the summer of 21. So we started planning it in the fall of 20, and first camp was 28 kids in 2 locations in the summer of 21.
So when did you realize it was going to take off? Because it really has. Like I will tell you that everybody talks. There's a large number of people that are talking about your summer camp, and I think a lot of it we would have all liked to gone to one of those summer camps as a younger person. But when for you? When did you like look around and go, oh my gosh, wait, this is a much bigger thing than I thought?
Yeah, I still can't believe how much has taken off. What happened after that first summer was I was then national president and finally getting to travel a little bit. So I started sharing, and SmackDown was an amazing partner too. Even that first summer, they made a video with us. So they helped us with that. They came over, they filmed, they made a video of us and Hermanson, and we talked about the whole idea. And we shared the video, but I started telling everybody about it when I went around to contractors across the United States. And I think part of it was I kind of started saying, okay, everywhere I go, you all say we have a workforce development problem. We're all worried about it. But I kind of looked at the contractors and said, but we need to stop talking about it. And it's time for you to get some skin in the game and for you to do something about it. Because I said, we're thinking the unions are going to solve this problem. And not that they aren't trying, but they need our help. And we need to do this together. And so I kind of started challenging contractors to say, it's your turn to step up and do something. And we'll make it easy for you. Here, we wrote a playbook. So Rick Hermanson and Western Allied together helped write this playbook. And the playbook, we kind of call it the easy button. We hope that playbook will explain to them how we ran the camp, what we found, lessons learned, all kinds of things. And all the projects we did were in the playbook. So that second summer, we had 11 locations and about 150 kids. So we went from 28 kids to about 150 kids. And that's where I started going, wow, I don't know if Milwaukee is going to give me 100 tool bags. So then DeWalt stepped up and we split those tool bags. So they each gave us half the tool bags, which was really great. I mean, they teamed together. And we started raising money for the boots that we were giving them, the PPE and the medals and everything else. We had other sponsors like Procore stepped in right away, and Mestec Machinery stepped in right away to make our medals. And I think when it really hit me was after that summer when all 11 said, we're in again. And then all of a sudden I had a bunch more that wanted to do it. And we were given a free booth at the SMACTA convention. And then we were given a free booth at the MCA convention. And then, oh my gosh, I mean, the free booth at the SMACTA convention, the MCA future president the next year, it was in October, and Robert Beck was going to be president of MCA the following March. And he stopped by our booth because he was at our convention, and he goes, we're going to do this. This is a great idea. I've never seen this before. And sure enough, Danforth ran a camp the next summer, even though he was president of MCA. So that's where it's like taken off. This past summer, so just a few months ago, we had 21 locations and 325 kids. Wow. And all 21 locations are going to do it again. And I'm easily on track for 50 more 50 total next summer, and probably 600-700 kids. So it's a good thing I am retired, because I'm not really retired.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's great. I love it. It's like finally, somebody really owning up to something and coming up with like a long-term solution to some of these problems that we keep talking about, with the unions and the contractors pointing at each other, talking about what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And it's really cool. I mean, this is going to have to bear fruit at some point, right? I mean, Angie, have you seen, it's only been a couple of years, right? But I mean, have you been able to see any of this bear fruit yet? Or it's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Every year we're forming it to, originally we said high school, and then we started saying, well, let's make it like 16, 17, 18 high school. So not the youngest ones. Right. And as we go, we kind of want the older ones, because we'd like to see, it's nice when they attend and they've already graduated. And so, But most camps, let's say on average, a camp has 12 to 16 kids. Usually we get 5 to 6 of them that have graduated high school. So you got to realize that of 16 kids, we may only have 6 that have graduated high school. But I'll tell you, of those 6, typically 5 or 6 of them are interested in getting in the trades. Now, sometimes when you're working with the underserved areas too, particularly driver's license are a big hurdle for kids in the underserved areas. So we're seeing, like my very first camp, I had kids that were very interested, but of the 5 that had graduated high school, 4 of them wanted to get, well, one of them got in right away. She had a driver's license. She was in, she pre-apprenticed for us right away. But the other 4 really wanted to, but none of them had driver's license. And takes a little bit when you don't have cars in the family. And we finally, after almost a year, those 4 got driver's license. And then we were tutoring them a little bit to help them take the test. They took the test and they did all right. So the next thing, they were going to have interviews. So we ended up doing mock interviews with them at our shop, because I work with a nonprofit in our group, and that nonprofit called, would you guys do mock interviews? I said, absolutely. What I thought was really cool about that was, so my 2 superintendents showed up, myself and my husband. So we were going to do mock interviews. We had 2 rooms, we're going to put a kid in each room. They showed up with 6 kids. And I said, well, who are you? This guy. And he goes, well, I'm Joe's older brother, but I work at Lowe's, but Joe's told me all about it. I think this is a better job. I want to get in.
Awesome.
The other kid said, awesome. I'm the neighbor of this guy, and I want to do it. So they had already passed the test as well. So we didn't just get those 4 in the trades. We got 6 because they told their friends and their brothers about it. So I thought that was pretty cool. So we actually just did our first ever annual report, and we do show some numbers in there, and we are getting kids in the trades. Superior Duck down in Southern California, every time he has a fab shop, and he immediately offers anybody that's graduated a job. And that's
awesome.
Start working right away. I guess he just, because he's a fab shop, he could, and they can allow, every area is different on how many pre-apprentices you can take. But if they're allowed pre-apprentices and you can take them, then you can help them the course of the next 6 months to get into the apprenticeship after that. So it works really well.
Oh, that's so fantastic. Cool. And one of the things I wanted to pick at that you were talking about is it is the heavy metal summer experience. And we've talked a little bit too that yes, you started with sheet metal, or you started with the full mechanical, and now you're really looking for those full MEP contractors to do it too. So that's one thread to pick at your brain. But what you highlighted there with the interview training, I think that's one of the things that many of us have been in the industry for a while are talking about with some of the younger people coming out, is they're lacking some of the communication skills, some of the interpersonal skills. So could you pick on that more? Because it's not just bending metal, welding metal and whatnot.
And we have to, if we really, we can't just have a camp and then throw the kids and say, okay, now go take this test and get in. Because, well, one of the problems we're also seeing is, we're seeing it, I'm also on a dean's advisory, the Dean of Engineering's advisory board at Cal Poly. So,
you don't have enough to do.
I don't have enough to do. But the dean was telling us that the kids that they're applying for college now, their math skills really deteriorated during the pandemic. These kids were freshmen and sophomore during the pandemic, and they're just, so we're seeing the same thing with the union tests. In the math skills are even worse than they were before. So we as a group, we can't just say, go take the test and get in. We need to be willing to help them. And I will tell you a story about, we ran a camp in St. Louis, and they've run camps the last 2 summers, and they do it they tour 3 contractor shops. So they take a half a day, 3 days in a row, and they go to a residential, a commercial, and an industrial contractor. And then the following week, they take the whole week and they do the camp in the training center, the Joint Apprentice Training Center. And the teachers in the St. Louis Training Center, the sheet metal guys, have been amazing. And they love the kids. This time, I think they had 16 kids. And they do a great job in St. Louis of getting that demographic to look like St. Louis. So it's not all white kids. It looks like St. Louis's population, which I love. So there was, in that camp, I think they had 5 kids that were already out of school, had graduated. And so those 5 kids that on Friday afternoon at the end of camp, they had them take the test to get in. And there was one young man that wanted to work so badly, and he failed one section of the test. And when they turn the test in and they get it back right away, the instructor said he looked like he was going to cry. And so he pulled them aside and he said, do you have another hour? Can you stay with me for an hour? And the kid said, yeah. He goes, I'm going to work with you. So he tutored him for an hour. The next morning, Saturday morning, when their graduation was, he told them to come back and take the test again. And I walked in right when I got to go to their graduation. I walked in right when he came out of that test, and the smile was the hugest smile in the world. He had passed that section.
That's awesome.
He was starting work Monday with one of our contractors. So
that's fantastic.
So I think sometimes we need to help. I mean, I'm proud of my son works at Western Allied now, my 25-year-old, and he runs my camp a lot for me, but he's also tutoring 2 nights a week on his own time and helping these kids that want to get in. So sometimes we do need to help them, I think. And that's part of it. I think we got to understand that these kids, that particularly if you're working with the underserved areas, they haven't had that kind of assistance. So we've got to teach them that. And you know what? They don't all work. I mean, they don't all pan out. They learn that, I got to get up early. So hopefully they do. But, we're seeing really good numbers with it. I'll say that for sure. So.
And it's an important thing to call out because we do talk a lot, and it's very important that we build, our open and inclusive job sites and jobs, and that's incredibly important to attract them in. But we also need to be able to work with the people that do come to us to help upskill them so that they're ready to jump into the workforce.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, our kids coming out of high school right now, many of these kids don't even know how to use a tape measure from day one. So we've got to show them what a tape measure is. I mean, so kids are not like when we were, and I'm way older than you guys, but when I was young, we did those kind of things. We worked with things more, I think, and we were outside more. We were doing things more. Where I think these kids they certainly understand that they like the computer stuff because they're doing video games, right? That kind of is cool, but there's a point where they got to learn what a level is and how to use a tape measure. But I will tell you that fire is their number one focus. They love fire. They like welding. They do fire, which makes me as a little nervous. They love fire. Yeah.
Picture like a Beavis and Butthead reference there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, if you have Trent and Jonathan drawn for you, you don't need a tape measure anyway. Everything's just bimmed and everything.
Yeah, it just works that well.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely how things work.
What a great foundation. I sit here and think about all the good that you're probably doing for the future of the industry, but it's really important, the story you just told, like what you're doing for these individuals too. And I'm a firm believer in the second and third effects of things. Like I'm always thinking about what's the second and third effects of our actions. And like the things that you're doing just have to be, it's crazy. You're probably not even realizing everything that you guys are affecting. That really is a cool thing. And coming from somebody who started as a mechanical person, who started more in the trades and then transitioned into the computer stuff, the software, like, look, you're laying the foundation for these people to, a lot of them have interest in the computers, but that can come later. Think about the bedrock, the foundation, like, it's paid dividends for me. I can only imagine what it's going to do for all of them as well.
And one of the things we love to tell them, and we talk to them about the fact that, like I told them, probably 60% of the contractors within SMACNA have started in the trades and they've worked their way up. Rick Hermanson, he was sweeping the floors for his dad's company when he started, and he worked his way through the union and all the way up to runs a $300 million company now. So we tell them that anything's possible, and there's so much opportunity in the trades and one of the things, like, I can share one story. It's a really cool story. It was our first summer camp, and it was actually up in Hermanson, up in Seattle. And there was a young woman in the camp that really did great the entire camp. She kicked butt compared to like some of the guys. They had 3 or 4 girls in that camp, but she just stood out. And at graduation, her mom pulled us aside and said, "I'm a housekeeper, and my husband's a framer." She said, "And I'll tell you, my daughter, her last semester of senior year, she was very depressed. She said, I lost my daughter. She went somewhere dark because she didn't know what she wanted to do when she knew she didn't want to go to college." And she goes, 6 weeks later, now that she's been in your camp, I have my daughter back. And I thank you so much. And this young lady now has been an apprentice for almost 1.5 years. And Hermanson was disappointed because they have to rotate apprentices. So she's had to go to but they hope that she'll come back to Hermanson when the rotation's done. But I look at it and think, if I can save one kid out of every camp, then I win. And it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're doing something. So
So, you get a lot of, you're saying you've got underserved areas, you got a huge, like, big umbrella for the type of kids that are attending camp. Is there something that you see that really brings them together? Because in thinking about it, I was like, there's not a lot of shop classes left in high schools that are getting people. And even when I was in shop class, I don't think they ever kind of said you can make a living at any of these things. It was always like, oh, you have a free, a free course, just go over there and take shop class. It wasn't like you can make a lot of money and possibly run $1 million business. It was shop class. So is there anything that you see that sort of is the, like, that is the tip off that these kids are gonna be excellent at this camp, or that they would be interested in the camp, for the parents out there and everybody else that's looking at their kids going, should I send my kid to this?
Well, I think two things. One is the kids don't pay anything for the camp, and they do walk away with a set of boots and a set of tools and PPE and all kinds of neat things they make at the camp. But the one thing I've said over and over again, career fairs are great, but we recommend around 30 hours for the camp, because the kids really need to get into and start using their hands and using the tooling that we make and what we have, so that they can start to figure out, oh my gosh, I can make this myself. I mean, they learn to solder, they learn to weld, they learned, they bend metal. They thought they had to bend it by hand. They found out, oh, we have machines to do that. And then we show them, we actually make an air conditioning unit. We teach them, we put ice in the air conditioning unit. They learn how a fan will blow and how the temperature is different when there's ice in it and when there's not ice in it. And we actually, 3 of our camps this past summer did electrical projects. We did did electrical stuff, and we brought an electrician in to talk to them about that. And that's one of our goals, is to try to make this a full MEP camp if we can. So I think the time they don't really, the first day or two of camp, depending on if it's a couple hours, and the schedules vary depending on who's hosting the camp. But by the time they've been in camp for maybe 5 or 6 hours together as a group, they start realizing that they can make these things. And then the first thing we tell them, and every day we tell them, wow, and you can make so much money doing this, and you can have pensions, and you can take in healthcare, and it's a career. We tell them all those things, and we reiterate it over and over again. But I think it has a lot to do with our union trainers too, the ones that are teaching them, because they're so proud of what they've done. They've had an awesome career, and that they love seeing the kids have an interest in it, and they love teaching it. I mean, I'll tell you, from Hermanson's point of view and Western Allied's point of view, our guys that developed our projects and everything, I have 4 of them, particularly our shop foremen and our shop superintendents. They are so proud of where we've gone with heavy metal, and how they really, their chest puffs out, because they're like, they started this thing with us. I mean, it wasn't just me, it was my team, and I'm thrilled to tell them about how many lives were changing. So it's kind of neat.
I love that life-changing aspect of it, and I don't want to, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I read a lot of books, and one of the kind of underlining tones that does talk about, like, some of the generations maybe a year or two younger than us, tongue in cheek there, but they do kind of have that lack of purpose, lack of direction. So even the ones that probably don't, see it all the way through or stick it with the program, they have to learn something, right? They have to feel like they accomplished something, they learned something about themselves. Because back to the apprentice that you talked about, like, she was down in dumps because she didn't know where she was going to go. Well, now you've shown her a path, and I think that's very commendable.
Yeah, and we have I have one young man at McKinstry did a video after they ran their camp this summer, and McKinstry is a big mechanical contractor up in the Seattle area, and one young man, he talks about, I think I like the plumbing. He goes, I think I want to run my own plumbing business. I mean, yeah, but he can see that people want to, right? So, Trent, are you a plumber?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Proud plumber.
All right.
Plumbers rock. Yeah.
So I think it's so neat. I kind of want us to be Switzerland, though. So I want us to be able to have mechanical, sheet metal, and electricians, and I want them to show the kids all of that, because I really want the kids to gravitate to what they feel that they're most interested in.
Right.
In the end, if that, I kind of lay it. I've seen it happen multiple times in a different area. If that instructor, if there is a really dynamic instructor that loves what he's doing, or she, but we've had in Kansas City, we had female instructors as well, but they really love what they're doing. The message that they give the the kids generally want to go there. Like I think that chemistry plumber must have been pretty impressive. So.
You just got to remember, like, what are the two things that have contributed the most to the longevity of human life? And it's been the advancement of medicine and modern plumbing. So
and modern plumbing.
That's right. Get the poo out.
Yep. Yep. Well, indoor air quality is important too now, though.
Well, you know.
You just made 60 minutes. Come on.
I might have made that up. I don't know.
So
yeah.
One of the things I wanted to bring up, which was, so my daughter has a friend, and the friend came to me because I was involved with like all the miscellaneous associations. And she's like, I really want to be an electrician and get in as an electrician. And it was tough for me to tell her what to do. You know, it was tough for me to understand what to do. I got to say, you know, you were talking about possibly having 50 locations, right? Running how many, like 300 kids through 50 locations,
600 kids.
600 kids.
600 plus, yeah.
And I would imagine Danforth's going to be one of those locations, right?
Yes.
So Danforth is within an hour and a half from my house. I guarantee you that if my daughter ever has a friend again, I can say, hey, oh, well, wait a second. There's this summer academy. It will get you ready for this. It will also get you, because it is tough. Like we say, we have a good funnel to bring people in, but nothing like what you're doing with the academy, where you're looking at showing them what the job is, having them do that day in the life, or their while in the life, teaching them how to build, and then tutoring them in. Like honestly, that's a pretty powerful funnel to get people interested and into it. How do you see it maturing? Because, you know, I mean, you have so many projects. You're talking about bringing in electrical. You're going to get big fast. If you're at 50 and 600, like next year, I hate to say it, I've been looking your exponential growth. That means 100 and 1,200 students. You actually are bigger than any individual event at this point. You know, so.
But you know what? I mean, we're talking United States and Canada. So we had one in Canada this year. We expect to have 3 or 4 in Canada this next summer. So there's a lot of area. I mean, if you think about it, even if we did 100 locations, that still doesn't touch a lot of places across the United States, right?
Oh, yeah.
But from my point of view, from what heavy metal does, I need to get, we are trying to scale up. I am focused right now a little bit on that and on fundraising and grant writing and trying to understand. For one, I think I need to hire, my goal would be by next summer to hire a full-time executive director, because I am playing that role right now. And and that was not my intention on retirement. So I would love to be the PR person, but I don't really want to be the full-time executive director. And that's not really my strength. I mean, I ran a mechanical contractor firm, but I don't really know a whole lot about, I mean, even fundraising is a new one for me. But I think, you know, honestly, what the thing that makes me the most excited is, you know, the camps that have run it, they realize, like, particularly when it's run by a contractor, they realize their employees love doing it. That employees love the fact that they're giving back and they're teaching, and they get to see these kids. So one story I had of our purchasing agent at Western Allied last summer, so summer of 22, she was working at Western Allied, but she didn't think she was qualified to volunteer. So what we would do would, we'd have 4 union folks. We'd have 2 sheet metal, 2 piping teaching the kids. We'd break them into a group of 8. But then we'd have project managers and engineers volunteer. So we'd always have like 4 adults for every 8 kids. So we had like basically a 2-to-1. And the project managers loved the volunteering because it was neat. They were able to, like, they just kind of supervise, or they'd help them, or they do their own project next to them. So they'd stand there and they'd work with them. So, but Justine didn't think, she said, I'm just a purchasing agent. I'm not qualified for that. Well, this past summer, my son talked to her and said, no, you need to volunteer. It's okay. Go for it. She called me up the next day after she volunteered, and she said, Angie, this was the best day of work I've ever had in my life. She goes, I had so much fun seeing those kids and how excited they were about this. And she goes, and I want to volunteer again. We're making a difference. I want to do this more often. So what we're finding is that as a company, you're realizing that it's helping because the generation that we have working at our companies right now, giving back is important to them. And they're realizing they're giving back, and they're realizing they're helping people who may not have had a path where they wanted to go. So I think that's, to me, very important. And I think will continue to grow. I do right now, I'm doing a lot of the let's put you together. So for example, in Indianapolis, Pointer is a big sheet metal contractor in Smack That, and awesome group. He's sheet metal only. there is a large electrical ERMCO right next to him, right, like a block away. And then there's North Mechanical, which is plumbing and piping. The three of them are going to work together and host camps. So and this will be the first time this summer coming up. So we're working on doing that. And I just love the fact that we can do this together. We're letting the unions are starting, even though sometimes our unions, sometimes the UA and SMART may be arguing over what they cover in material. We're Switzerland. I mean, we're just trying to help kids get into the trades. So
and it helps everybody.
It helps everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There might be a construction dork in the backyard of that one camp.
Yeah. I worked for North Mechanical for 11 years. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Absolutely.
Are you in that area? Are you in?
I am. I live in Indianapolis. Yep.
Okay. Well, then you can come over. Why don't you come over and volunteer?
Consider me voluntold to help with whatever you've got.
Okay.
Would be more than happy to, Angie. There's yeah.
Can you still solder?
And it's really important to teach them about
I can pro press with the best of them.
That's right.
It's really important to take them into our BIM departments and teach them what that is, because that's a huge part. We try to, there's so much more to construction, and the robotics side of construction is something we really need to continue to hit a lot on. Yeah. Procore has been a great partner, and they have this program where they could do it on their phones, where they enter a 3D building and they walk around on their phones in a 3D building, and we give them a scavenger hunt list, and they go in the 3D building and they try to find the scavenger hunt stuff. And we need to show them that the technology's there, because these are the kids that were born with it in their hands, mm-hmm. right? They were born with it attached to them. So that's what you need to do. You need to do that for us.
I consider me signed up.
Okay, good. I won't forget. Don't worry.
I know you won't.
In construction, honestly, I don't think a lot of kids know how cutting edge we are. Like, they took the HoloLens, which was an augmented reality headset off the market. They're like, well, no one's using it. I'm like, everybody in construction is using this. Like, all the cutting edge was using it, and we took it out to Penn State, and we're like, we're using it, and we're using this, and we're using this, and we're getting resumes from Penn State engineers the second we leave, because they had no idea that that's what construction was becoming. Yeah. But so with the projects, with everything they learn, they get to learn it. Do they get to actually use like what kind of welding do they do? I'm just curious.
Real welding. So depending on where you're at and what camp you're running and all that kind of thing and what they want to do, but we put them in our welding booths, and they learn. We buy extra welding stuff, but probably more one-on-one with that than they are. Yeah. We don't allow it to be like 4-on-1. We want one-on-one with welding, but we also had, like, I know in I think it was in St. Louis that they did virtual welding, and they had competitions, which is a great way to do it. I had a dream one day. This is a dream, but I had a dream. I woke up in the morning, thought, was that a dream? I was going to build out a big RV with about 8 virtual welders in it, and just drive around to my camps and let them use them at my camps. That was my dream, but that goes. But because they love the fire so much. But even simple as Sacramento SMACNA did this in their camp, and I loved the idea. She brought out her fire extinguisher guy. The people that do the fire extinguishers, they built round sheet metal things. They built fires in the parking lot, and they taught the kids how to use the fire extinguishers, and the kids got to get the fires out. And that was a huge hit with the kids. So, and it's a life skill right now. If there's a fire in their house, they've actually used a fire extinguisher. So, but welding is a big part of it. And you find that many of the kids want to be welders. They think they don't realize how long an 8-hour day under a hood in the hot weather is going to really be, but we won't tell them that at all.
Yeah, we don't need to tell them any of the downsides. None of the downsides. All positive.
Some people find solace in that. I don't know. It's there's definitely a breed. There's people who just enjoy welding is for people who have like an artistic mind. Yeah. Welders are very similar in the ability to focus on patterns and things that you're doing for a long time. The same skill sets are there. It's
in St. Louis's camp, they build a dice out of heavy gauged metal, and they weld the seams. And I was looking at them at graduation, and there's one young lady who was amazing. And she was going to be a senior. She wasn't even out of school yet. She's going to be a senior in high school, but they're fighting over her already because she wants to be a welder. And she's so good as a junior in high school at welding for some reason. So it's really neat because she says, "Oh, I'm going to be a welder next summer." She goes, "As soon as I get out of college, out of high school," she said, "I'm going to be a welder." And she already had offers from, they were like fighting over her. So
well,
cool.
you know,
cool.
I got to say, you were saying that maybe like you were worried about whether Milwaukee would give them, you know, like a tool bag for the students. I'm thinking they're going to be fighting over who to give them to, because I remember my first tools, and they're the first battery I get, and you know what I buy? Everything else
that's a great point.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I mean, you have a pretty good captive audience.
You got to play that marketing.
I just did. I sent my email to Milwaukee and letting them. I mean, I'm looking at probably needing 300 tool bags from each company this summer. And I did say to them that, you know, your first tool bag is the one you never forget. And we generally will check with the contractor and say, are you a Milwaukee or a DeWalt? And if they are, we try to give, as long as we have, and it's been about 50-50 so far. So, and if it's not 50-50, then the training centers will usually be more agnostic. They don't care. So I'll give them to the training center. I'll send, you know, one versus the other. And actually in Kansas City, they did, they wanted half Milwaukee, half DeWalt, just because she said we use both. So he had 30 kids in Kansas City this past summer. And so we gave him 15 tool bags of each. But those partners have been huge for us. DeWalt, Milwaukee, because and DeWalt, they also have Stanley Black & Decker has a grant right now available that we've applied for the last 2 years, and we've gotten money from them, and we applied for this year. December 1st, I'll be finding out if, you know, how much more we'll get, but it's to help the trades, and they extended that grant. They put $25 million aside for it. So that's the part that's important to me. I'm trying to tell our partners. I mean, Procore has been that partner. Train signed up for that this past year. They were a huge supporter of us. Like I said, Mestech and, you know, SMACNA, MCA, NICA are all giving us lots of help and free boosts and things like that. But we're starting to get other sponsors and starting to step up. I mean, even Kojo and Open Space and some of the tech ones are starting to step up. Because I think, and Trimble they stepped in last year too. So for me, it's a matter of saying, guys, you need the industry. You need it to be successful. And if you could just help us with this, because it's going to help with the industry in the future.
Well, does Lincoln have a semi tractor trailer like you were talking about? Because I think Lincoln Welders has a virtual welding trailer that, you know, they could probably let you borrow the keys of for a couple of days. Come on. Like it's just
I'm supposed to be retired. I could drive around in that big truck in the summer.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're just camping. You're just camping.
It's a camper trailer.
Or your executive director could, right? Yeah.
If you could do one, I'm cheap and I'm from the Midwest, so if you could get Master Force and Tool Shop out of the Menards stores, I'd be great with that too. But so I wanted to touch on the technology side. We're construction technologists here, so you did talk about you do take them through the BIM departments and stuff, and when I was working with the Helm Group, that's one of the things we did a lot of, and I used to go to different career fairs and talk about stuff, and I was supposed to talk about software development at one, and I ended up talking about construction a lot. So can you talk a little bit more about like the technology involvement that these kids get exposed to? Because not everybody's going to be a welder, but we still need other people. We need the purchasing agents and whatnot.
No, we do, and we do take them through all of our shops, and we show them everything. And actually, when you do host a camp at a training center, a lot of them have welding booths all over the place. But they also have the computers in the BIM department. So we try to, in a lot of the camps, we're trying to let them see from the very beginning. So we go in there with them to the 3D. We draw what we're going to draw in 3D. We show them how it gets downloaded to the computer, and then it goes to the laser and gets printed out. You know, and they can go watch it printed out on the laser. And then they form it together, and they might have to weld it or whatever. So we're showing them all that now, and we're giving them a chance to even use that a little bit. And then like having 3D programs like a Procore had offered with where they can go through a 3D building and do a scavenger hunt. That's a great way to do it. I mean, it shows them what they're doing. I think every kid has a different, I mean, not every kid, but a lot of them are like, oh, well, that's fun, but I want to do this, or I want to do that. And so the virtual head, we would love to get them walking some job sites with that too. It just depends. Job sites are a little more of a struggle to bring your camps to, just because you've got to coordinate it. And I know in our area, my superintendent was starting to say to the kids, listen, our camps were running from like 2:30 to 5 after the shop was closed. He would say to them, if anybody can get off at noon, meet me here at noon, and I'll take you to a job site. He would do 3 or 4 kids at once as a tour, which was kind of nice. But yeah, we really do try to stress the technology. And in our shops right now, we have so much prefab going on in our shops. So we show them how that we have, we do the welding that way with the Tiger stops. And so we show them all of that. And I'm excited that how technology has finally been adopted, is much more accepted in construction. Think about it. I've been in construction. Yeah. My first company I worked at, we were excited because we got a fax machine. Okay. So that was a
probably
big deal.
Still have it.
Yeah, they may. This is a small company. So
it's used every day. It's pretty.
Yeah. I finally got us to take our fax number off our business card, so I think we can take that off. So. But it is great to see how technology is so accepted now, and we tell the kids that. We talk to them about the fact that we talk about robotics and how the robots can lay out the job sites, but you've got to be the one who operates the robots, and so they really, you have a lot of kids that are interested in robotics, and when they hear that, they're like, oh, that's interesting. So we need to continue to sell that to them and get them. I mean, one of the things I was thinking about would be giving them videos that we could send them home with to do some homework at night. Say, hey, here's 3 videos I want you to watch, and we'll talk about them when you get back. So we can show robotic videos or that kind of thing.
Maybe a Construction Dorks podcast.
Oh, there you go. Okay. I like it.
You don't want them to listen to us.
Yeah, one where we don't swear a lot.
We probably have a few that might help. Yeah.
The bourbon drinking may not be the best thing in the high school.
Yeah, it's probably all bad.
That comes later in the career,
Right.
Yeah. They may be doing it themselves now. I don't know.
Some of the startups you talked about from the tech side are perfect, like Open Space. That's an easy 360 camera solution. It's got some really cool graphics. The interface is cool. I can see, I could see more as soon as startups know that you're doing this, I could see a lot of them jumping on, because when we take technology and we put it on a job site, unfortunately, it usually doesn't go to the foreman. It usually goes to the youngest, most techie person on that job site. And so a lot of these students, when they get there, they may be the person that's looked at to be the tech nerd, while they're learning better welding skills, better soldering, better installation skills.
Well, so we started seeing in Western Allied that we should team an apprentice up with a foreman who was an older foreman and let them do the tech side of it. And it worked out really well.
I see that all the time. I recommend it too.
Reverse mentoring. We've talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
The other thing you mentioned that we do talk a lot about, since you're not maybe versed in the Construction Dorks, we know you watch them all in your free time, but is the fact that construction is one of the few places where you don't need a college degree to be the owner of the company. Yeah. We've had a bunch of times we've had on owners of the company, the biggest movers in construction, and we're like, what's your degree? And they're like, oh, I dropped out of school after a year because I got tired of it. And, I went to tech school for 12 months. And now I run a multi-million-dollar company. So are you forwarding that to them, that idea that this is you don't end up with debt, you end up making money from day one? Is that big for them, or are they still skeptical?
It's big for the parents. The parents, when they start seeing that, they see it, because we do have in some of our posters, we have the analysis of 4 years in college and then 4 years in the trades, and what you owe at the end of that and how much you've made at the end of the trades. And it's a big deal for the parents, and some of the kids, it's a really big deal because money is their focus, it seems like. And I think we talk to them all the time about it. And a lot of the apprenticeships now, and Local 104 in our area, and I think UA 467 in my area, if they've worked with Foothill College, so when you get done with your apprenticeship, you have an AA degree. So you have a 2-year degree. So they've added specific English type soft skill classes to their apprenticeship specifically because Foothill said, if you want the AA degree, you've got to add these classes. And they did that. Yeah. So I've told them, I said, you graduate, you get done with your apprenticeship, you've already got your AA degree, you're working in the trades. And if you decide you might need to go get a bachelor's from business, for example, then maybe you go at night and stuff. You're already making money. You've made good money. You can probably do that, or you could do it online. But I said to them, you don't need it to do that. Many owners don't. And the masters of life is going to give you a lot more experience than necessarily the classes. I love my classes in college, but I think I've learned way more of my first 5 years at Western Allied from my field folks than anybody else. So
our local here, the UA local in Indianapolis, does the same thing. You get a 2-year associate's degree from the local community college. So there is that. I would argue, me being where I am now years later, probably look at that and say maybe it's not that big a deal. But at the moment, if you did want to transition, there is that opportunity. I mean,
well, and I look at it and say, hey, I ran a large company. Did I have an MBA? No. I just had a bachelor's. Could I have used one? Maybe, but you know what? I just married one, and I would just bring stuff home at night and say, "Hey, you need to help me with this."
That's right.
My
there's ways around everything.
Yeah, there is.
Charles Barkley, when they, he's like, because Charles Barkley left college, right, to join the NBA, but he had, like, I don't have a college degree, but I got a lot of people that work for me that do. So
yeah. No, I think the kids, we really, really do stress over and over again. And one of the things we do is after about 30 hours of camp, we stress to make the graduation a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal that they've graduated. We try to, like in my company, we have we make it a company function. So we probably have 150 people at the barbecue. And I mean, for them to have 150 at their graduation is pretty cool. But and we give them, certificates, but they get a medal, but they also get letters of recommendation. And we're hoping that we can continue to work with the unions to give them a step up. Like some of them, there's points to get, that your test scores help you. The higher ones get to go into the apprenticeship sooner, but there's also other points. And we're hoping that a lot of the unions will work with the heavy metal camp and say, well, they get X number of points because they did the heavy metal camp, and get them into the camp. I mean, direct entry would be ideal, but I don't know, every apprenticeship in every state has got different rules. So I can't get into that level, but I said today when I was on the phone with some Portland folks, they were saying, have you thought about, making this an approved apprenticeship, pre-apprentice class? And I said, well, you need to do that in Oregon because their rules are different than all the other states. But I said, go for it. If you think you can, that's what we should do. So, but I do need the support of all NECA, IBEW, UA. I mean, we need all and SMART. They need to be on board. SMART's been very on board with it from the very beginning because I was SMACNA and I was strong with that, and UA stepping up, and now I just need to get to IBEW to get them more on board as well. So
we may know a few people.
Yeah.
Given that they're going to try to electrify the United States, they need more people than anyone else. Like legit need more people coming in than anyone else.
I absolutely. They got to be in so much with all the battery factories and all the, I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, California, we're not going to be able to buy a car that's not electric here in a few years. So we need charging stations.
You're still good in Indiana, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
Probably good in Oklahoma and Texas still too.
I still use my coal-powered locomotive here,
That's probably what people think. Yeah. No.
Well, I'm excited. We're going to have a camp in Texas, we're going to have one in Dallas. So Brant's going to have one. There's a few areas I'd like to get. Definitely, I'm still working on Chicago, so I need to talk to the Helm Group and see if I can get them to consider it. But I'm working on certain areas. But I am excited to get ones in different locations, which is really great. It looks like we might have one in Milwaukee and Minnesota, and so we're moving into different areas, which is a good thing. So.
Right on. So if somebody wants to, because we, there are people actually that I tell about this, and I'm always like, contact Angie. She'll move you forward. This is who you need to contact. But is there anything beyond that? Like aside from reaching out to you on LinkedIn or reaching out to you via email, is there a way for, particularly I'm saying for parents, because those are the people that I see most of all, that like, there are a lot of people in my local that would love to send their kid to one of these camps. Yeah. And there's 2 contractors that I know that probably could be talked into doing one if we can find enough classes. How do you get going? How do you get started?
Well, that's a good question. And you need to realize it's growing so fast. I built our first website. Yeah. And which is a bad thing because I had people to do that kind of thing when I was at Western Allied, and now I did it myself. So it was a GoDaddy website. And it's still working and doing fine, but we are finally going to, by the end of this calendar year, we will have a neat new website. It's going to be awesome. I got people working with me, but even now though, you can go to my website and it's going to be the same website address. So it's www.hmse, so heavy metal summer experience.org. And we've got videos on there, and we've got, and those that are interested in sponsoring, there is a tab about Raise the Rebar is our Is our
cool.
thing for trying to raise some money here, raise the rebar. But that tells a lot of the story we have. It tells the story how we're going to be, where you can go. And we'll also have our map. We have a map of the United States. Like we had a map last summer of the 21 locations. And the plan is the United States and Canada will have a map again to show where they are. And we'll have contact people at that location. So the other thing is we're planning on putting an online application for the students on the map, on the website. So by the end of the year, there'll be an online application on the website. And what you'll do is there'll be drop downs for all the locations we're having camps, and you pick the one that you're closest to or that you want to get into. And then the camp will get that application as well as we'll get that application. So we're trying to make things a little more streamlined. And we're trying to figure out how to scale this whole thing up. But I've got a great PR group, Nelson Creative and Davenport, Iowa, working with me to do all my social media, but they're also doing our website and our playbook. So we're trying to scale that up because we need to. And I hope that we do have a problem with the fact that we may have 100 camps the following summer. If I can, if we're lucky, it's doing the right thing. So
your forecast suggests you will. So
yeah,
I mean,
I know. I know, and that's great. But the other thing is, there's two things I would wish we could get the shops back into high schools, and that they could understand, that there is a career in the trades. I mean, we do see some counselors. I mean, there was a counselor in Laverne School District, which is in the Southern California area, and it happened that the first summer we had Superior had a camp. The 3 kids from that school district went to that camp, and one of them was the daughter of the superintendent of schools, which was really cool. She went to the camp. So then she told the counselor that you need to go get more kids into that camp. It's an amazing camp. So then I talked to this counselor, and the counselor said, I think we should be focusing with some of our counselors. Not all of us should focus on college. And I'm like, thank goodness. So that superintendent of schools actually allowed her to be a counselor that does not focus on college. I don't remember what her title is, but she's basically following up on careers that don't require a 4-year degree. And if I was really successful, 10 years from now, it's all back in the high schools, and the high schools are pushing people to the right options for their careers. And we don't need to have these summer camps, but if I'm really lucky. So
well, that could happen. I mean, look, that's what they're going to have to wake up and realize. And I mean, the reality is that we always train for the wars that have been fought in the past, right? I mean, I know, Travis, you could say, Travis, you're a veteran like me. I mean, when we went to boot camp, we trained bayonets. We trained, it's like, it seems like the path always trains you for the high schools are going to have to realize, and hopefully they realize it before we're training. But eventually, these classes are going to come back to the high school. They're going to. They just need to do it now. Hopefully they're not realizing 20, 30 years from now, training for the war that's already happened, right? But the war's getting ready to happen where people don't know how to do these things, and it's happening. So,
cool. And as we know, we have so many retiring here in the next 5 years that it's just we're going to be so shorthanded. And thank God we have technology, because technology is helping us with that a little bit, but it's still not nearly enough. And I mean, it's just, it's a great career. We call it the best kept secret, the career in the trades.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I had a phone call earlier today with Steve from Dodge Analytics, and I'm going to butcher his statistic or whatever, but they did a poll of the different trades, and including structural and everything like that. And I want to say it was close to 30% was what they expect to retire in the next wave. So 30% of our workforce is going to retire.
What's kind of cool is a couple of guys in Western Alley, like my superintendent particularly, he's older. He and I are the same age, and but he's this union guy, so he's been in the trades for longer, and he could easily have retired 5 years ago. But because we started the camp, and because we're Western Alley's on the cutting edge of technology, and that we're really interested in that, he is having so much fun to see and to share the camps and to share technology and to see us get lasers and see us get this, that he says, I'm going to keep working. And that's really cool, because that's what we need. And then if you have retired and you're a union folk but you still want to help, I'll take retirees to help too. I mean, a couple of my camp liaisons, Dean Fox is a liaison we have, that he used to run the labor at Hermanson. He was a tenor when he came up through the sheet metal industry, but he retired as a couple of years back, and he heard about this, and now he's one of my liaisons. So he helps my camp. So call him, and I can't have me be the liaison for everybody.
Yeah.
So, and I can't get to all the graduations and I can't get to all the camps. So it's nice to have some help like that. So, yeah.
Well, Jonathan, you look like you have something you want to say.
Yeah.
Oh, not specifically. I got to say that like if this camp existed, this is the camp that I would have gone to. Like the reason that I did not stress as hard when I dropped out of college was because I had 2 years of tech school during the summers. So I knew that I could do carpentry, which isn't what I ended up doing. But like, I got to say the level of, and I was thinking about this with the kids and especially what you said about that story of the girl that kind of lost her way. I think you're enabling them to understand that they can make it. And then I've been playing this game at the airports when we get talking about constructions, because I wear the big construction shirt anyways, and I talk all the time. It's a bad habit, but guess how much a welder makes is my favorite thing to say. And they'll be like, oh, I don't know, 50, 60 grand a year. And I'm like,
Oh, geez,
oh no, you don't understand. And then you tell them how much they actually make at base, and then you tell them how much they really make with like 2 shutdowns a year or 1 shutdown a year, and they're like, are you kidding me? And it's like, no, seriously, you can get your 6 figures without going to college, and at a job that is like going to shop class, which was my favorite class was shop class. There's no question.
My 25-year-old gives me a hard time because he says, Mom, why did you have me go to college? He goes, I would have been a lot further off if I would have just done the trades. And I'm like, sorry, but I mean, he's with an industrial technology major. And I said, well, you would have missed out on the college experience. He goes, yeah, that's true. He goes, but then again, he goes, I would have probably had the house that I want to buy by now. And I said,
do you really need the college experience? I mean,
I know
it was fun, but do you really need it?
Yeah, well, luckily he went to Cal Poly, so it was not as expensive as most colleges.
Sure.
So, but that helped. But yeah, no, and you know what? Passion's important, and every trade is different. My older son's a journalist, and he was a sports journalist, and he has a master's, and I feel for him to a certain degree because journalism's not a trade that pays very well. He is now the sports editor for a big paper online paper in the Bay Area, and doing great. But, he jokes about his brother making a lot more money than he does. And I keep telling people they don't understand what a good paying job construction is all the way throughout. I mean, in the office and in the field, it's a good paying job, better than most. And my husband was in the hotel business. That's not where you want to be if you want to make money.
No. I definitely like my son growing up, he's at college right now, but before he left the house, I was like, yeah, why don't we teach you how to blacksmith and carpentry and just weld a little, like just have the base level skills. So I know if you can't find a job, you can find a job. You know what I mean? Because I don't think they realize that, like, we're not kidding. 30% is retiring. We have nobody in electrical to replace them. We have no one in plumbing to replace them. Like, we need people so badly that if you want to do this, we will pay you lots of money to do this,
Right.
And you guys know, I'm sure that stat's been said many times, but the average age entering our apprenticeships in sheet metal and in UA, I know those two, is around 26 and a half. So they're 26 and a half years old before they start the apprenticeship. Where have they been for the last 8 years, 9 years? So
probably college,
or military.
That or in and out. They might have been working in and out. You never know. I mean, that's the thing. I think to myself, gosh, if they could have joined the trades 8 years earlier, think of where they would be financially and pension wise and everything else if they were at 26 and a half.
Well, I think that speaks a little bit to the being lost. Like, I think probably a lot of them spent almost a decade just trying to figure out who I am, what do I want to be, what do I want to do. Like,
that's true.
Yeah, and they don't have at 26.
You can do that while working too, though.
You can,
right? Yeah.
And they lose their parents' benefits at 26, so they have to stop.
That's a good point.
That's it right there.
Oh crap! I need insurance.
That actually might be the real statistic. I don't even know.
It might be. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. So
Angie, all the people we got for BIM, I couldn't find anybody for BIM because no one, not computer people. I started grabbing graphic designers that were making $12 to $15 an hour. And I'm like, oh, I can pay you way more to do the same stuff that you're doing, but for a different, and it was like the gold mine, like because you could grab graphic designers and just feed them in and you're always paying them more. and they're always going into that tech side. I wish there was a similar funnel for the actual hands-on work. But there's just not a lot. We are bringing people into the union through outside trades, but that doesn't go that fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. And we the union does need to continue to work on getting people through the system faster, into it faster. Need to understand that they need to take more kids into it. They keep saying, well, we want them to be employed. I understand that, but if you only take one class a year, we have a problem. So in different areas, see different problems, and that's one of the challenges on the union side, is that we need to continue to figure out a way to, maybe make part of it online so that you can make it more efficient.
Yeah,
there's a lot of challenges there. I don't really want to try to be the solver of those problems too. But I got to figure out how to get our kids into the unions, because it's going to make us successful.
That's an interesting one, because I can look at that even from my past experiences where, and I think some of that's a button head between the contractor and the union a little bit, but, I work in software now, right? And I work in customer success and onboarding and stuff like that. And we're always trying to figure out, how do we get the time to first value faster, right? We're always talking about, how do we get from somebody's new to the time where what we have provides value to them. We want that to be as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the apprenticeship, when I went through the plumbing and pipe fitting apprenticeship, it was a 5-year apprenticeship when I went, and then you heard about, 15 years ago, it was a 4-year apprenticeship. And I'm like, wait, they added a year? Wait a minute. And then now I'm in software and I'm like, no, we're trying to shorten that. But
right.
And some of that's the back and forth with the contractor, because I think the contractor wants more years of not paying them the full wage, right? And I get that. But the union needs to try and push a quicker turn, because we need to get plumbers and electricians to the first value faster. The same thing we're trying to do in software, right? So you learn things as you move through different roles and different spheres, and that's.
And we are adapting in things like with the military, like helmets and hard hats or smart heroes. We're adapting where we have an 8-week program that they take, a intense 8-week program, and that's the entire first year of apprenticeship. Those are the kind of things we got to be creative on. Let's figure out how we can get these kids through faster, so that, and if they're good at it, particularly if they pass, if they get to the next level, if they can pass that next test and say, I should be at second level, then let them be at second level. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where I hate it. It's sad when you see an apprentice getting out finally in this 5th year, and they really were kicking butt the whole time, and they probably could have been better off. a lot of companies will pay them higher wages because of that. But we need to figure out how to adapt our training. And I know ITI is on the sheet metal side is really working on that. They're trying to. So
I think there's a lot of changes that need to go on to keep our workforce where we need to be. But we are well over we're a tick over our hour mark. So this is where, Angie, we talked a little bit about your revamp of the website and your advertising. We talked a little bit about trying to get more exposure to the kids. We're largely an industry-based podcast. So this is your time to get on your soapbox and make appeals to the industry. What do you need? Help me help you. What do you need from us?
Well, there's a number of things I probably could use. And again, one of them was even just support from our industry in regards to financially. Anyhow, for example, I did talking to both like Open Space and Kojo, said, hey, if you're a sponsor, thank you for being a sponsor. And if you're a sponsor, we would love you, if you're in that area, to stop by a camp. It's a great opportunity for them to get inside a contractor's shop and say, hey, I'm a sponsor, I want to check out the camp. But then you get a chance to meet somebody in that shop. And now you can possibly talk to those shops as well. But to support, knowing all of the people that support our industry need to know that to make our industry successful, we need to go forward. So we're asking for people to look at that. We do have that side of it. But for heavy metal to be successful too, we need to have contractors and training centers willing to step up and say, I'm going to be a host. Because it's not free to be a host either. They end up spending money as well. But it's money well invested because of the fact that they're going to get people out of this, and it's the right thing to do for the industry. So I need a combo. I'll continue to do what I can do, but I need host camps. I need people who are willing to host. I need training centers that are willing to host, and I need people who are willing to donate as well and help us on that end of it. So I just, just to continue to grow, because I think it's a good story. And I do think that, I'm happy if a company says, I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to do it within my own company and I'm good. I don't need you heavy metal anymore because we got it covered. Great. Have at it. But what we do every year is every time there's new projects being built in the camps, like we built new projects this summer, we're going to add them to our playbook. So so the next person coming in to run a camp is going to have even more projects to pick from. So the goal is every year our playbook will be updated with the new projects. And new ideas and new forms and things like that, so that if we can continue to make it easier and easier for the next camps. But you need to have skin in the game. All of us need to sell this industry to the next generation. And to do that, we need to tell them how great an industry it is. So we need to shout that to the mountaintops in my mind. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. We say a lot of times that construction has a PR problem. Mm-hmm. And I think you're doing a great job to help address that. So I commend you for that. We thank you for your time here. Yes. I think it would be awesome if we think about the heavy metal summer camp as a minor league or a feeder system that feeds into the industry, into the, on our side, the union training centers. I think that would be great for us as a whole, if we could just have these regionally based camps that continue to feed kids in. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing. And thank you for being a guest on our podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you for letting me talk about it because it's important. And Trent, I've got your number. I'm going to be calling you. That's right. So don't worry.
In all seriousness, I love to help. It's not, absolutely. Yeah. So.
Good. Well, thank you guys, because this kind of thing helps a lot. You guys telling the story and sharing our vision. And I know you all have the same vision because we all rely on construction for our industry. So that's a great thing.
We all to live.
Yeah.
Construction to live.
I mean,
yeah.
It is
the poo has to get out of my house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
So
thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
This has been Angie, you got one more thought or?
I'm gonna go find my bourbon now. Is what I'm.
It is
right
time, right?
That's what you need to do at the end of every show.
We got to wrap it up right now.
Find my bourbon.
So this has been episode 72, The Dorks Go Heavy Metal with Angie Simon. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.